So, we've been troubleshooting for at least 2 hours. A good 40 minutes of those 2 hours ended up turning into discussions about the greatest album of our generation, Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel by.
Oh, please, God.
The second best album of our generation, which also came up in these talks, was the Yu-Gi-Oh! The Movie original soundtrack.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
If you're looking at the vidcast, you're seeing a piece of history right here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weeb Roundup. I'm your host. I'm the RedMufflerMan. I want to say you might know me at this point now. We've released almost 7 episodes, I think, question mark.
This is episode 6.
Almost 7.
That's gonna be our lucky episode. That's gonna be our best one.
Every episode is going to be our best one until I start getting burnt out and decide to throw one of you off of a bridge for a blood sacrifice.
That's gonna be
And
me.
that's that's when they're gonna reincarnate one of us, right?
Oh, yo, can we get Blue Eyes Shining Kai?
Jesus,
help me, anybody.
No.
I'll dox myself right here, right now, if it means that I could get help.
oh, god damn it. But I guess so. We're currently recording at scenic 3 a.m. because we've all been very, very busy today. So hopefully, what the fuck?
There we go. I was trying to make sure I got 2:47. It is actually 3 in the morning. It is 3 in the morning.
I was just very confused because I was like, what the fuck's a live twin doing on screen?
That's just my background, dude.
It's because we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Again.
Yeah.
It's gotta happen.
Yeah, I've got to do my thing. I've got fucking Kiss a Kill, and then I swipe it, and then it's fucking Lilla. That's how it is, you know?
Yes, hello.
I'm a live twin player. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
Hello and welcome to the Weeb Roundup, the #1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game podcast.
yeah. Seriously.
And we go, okay, so Lana, now that the deck's out, what do you think about the branded structure?
It's not a draw and a pop. It's not a draw and a pop. That's all I
gotta say.
It's not a draw
and a pop.
It's not. It's cheating. Anyway, we don't need to talk. We don't need to get people's ears in about simultaneous effects going on the same chain or anything. We're just gonna top deck Exodia into the next subject. How about that?
Well, if you insist. First, I would like to normal summon, and I'll have you know that this is an on-activation effect. Is it if or is it when? You will find out shortly.
I think it sounds like an if. it sounds.
All of 5 people are going to get that.
Sounds like you just said an if effect.
But real quick before we start, I would like to make a quick little PSA because for those that know, I'm a voice actor. Kai is a voice actor. Lana's a voice actor. We all to be voice actors. You're the only one of us that has an actual credited role.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we're voice actors, so
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah. So we're all voice actors here, and a lot of us really care about what the fuck is kind of going on in terms of what happens in the community, because there's a whole lot of people that do this shit. A lot of people for a living, a lot of people for passion. Yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on about it for hours, but that's not what I'm going to be going on about here today in terms of the medium. So there's a voice actor by the name of Billy. Is it Kametz or Kametz? I've never actually known.
It's Billy Kametz.
It is Kametz. Okay, so his name is as cool as he is. Okay.
Yes.
So I had to make sure on that. So
Billy Kametz, who you might know as the English voice of Galatimos and Promare. He's also the English voice of Josuke Higashikata and JoJo Part 4. Just to name, I would say those are
he's Osumatsu and Osumatsu.
Yeah,
actually. That's huge.
That is
holy
huge.
Fuck.
He's the Dr. Maruki. This guy's got quite the.
He's great.
Quite the panorama of voices.
Yes. I know he started out doing theater acting and then moved into voice acting from there.
Sounds familiar. But
yeah. I wonder who that reminds you
Guy
of.
did some cool stuff with Disney. Love that.
Yeah.
But the big thing I wanted to bring up is Billy Kametz has recently been diagnosed with colon cancer. And I'm pretty sure I don't have to say anything in the fact that cancer sucks really hard. And like, honestly, the biggest thing that I know Billy for was his role in Promare, because I've seen a good chunk of the English dub for Promare. And
I own that.
Yeah, and he does a fantastic job as Galatimos. And in general, I got that news a couple days ago on my feed, and I saw like Sean Shiplock and shit and such sharing it like in his Discord and stuff, and I was just like, what? And it was one of those things where it was like, I kind of at least like, we don't have like much of a platform here at the moment. We're kind of just like coasting. But at the very least, I wanted to at least bring it to attention. So you're going to find in the description of this video a link to Billy Kametz's GoFundMe. We're going to be a little late probably by the time this episode goes up. But if that GoFundMe, it should still be going. He is currently raising money in order for him to be able to live comfortably and focus entirely on his battle with colon cancer. So legitimately, if you can find it in your hearts to donate to somebody who has given a good chunk of his time and like his like just energy to give some of these amazing roles that we've seen in just like anime, video games, all of this stuff, that would mean the world to me, honestly. So like, definitely feel free to donate or even just like check it out and like spread awareness of it like in other places. Cause it's like I think all of us can agree that the American healthcare system is fucking bollocks. So like, I don't want somebody to have to go through the stress of that shit. Cause I had my grandmother go through that shit. And I can tell you right now, like, it is like a fucking huge financial burden, and she had health insurance. So it's like, I don't want to imagine what it is for somebody who works like freelance as an actor, So just wanted to draw awareness on Billy Kametz's battle with cancer here for a second, just to kind of get in touch. Just wanted to make sure that something like that was just kind of known. So if you're able to help with that, or at the least spread the word, I would very much appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Any contribution is very much appreciated. To not to try and date the show or anything, but we did record when it was the GoFundMe was created 4 days ago, which means by the time that the episode comes up, it should be available, and in the link, and a link to it will be in the description. If you if you can't find it, then or you're on some sort of other platform that we may have in the future, the link will be on my Twitter, which I'll promote during the end of the show. Technotuner487. Also, for a second, like, this guy's got a list.
No, he's been working. He's been working.
He's got a list. This is a list. I just love thinking about the vocal range that they have between Gallo and Dr. Maruki. That's such a this person's got the stuff.
He's great.
Holy shit! Thoughts and prayers, no matter what, my guy.
No, for real.
Like, you're gonna be the next big thing as long as you make it through this. We're all behind you.
It's one of those things where it's like a lot of people will look at the performances that are given, especially a lot for dub actors. I feel like a lot of dub actors don't get a lot of like real respect a lot of the time, because you have all of these fucking elitists that are just like, oh, sub over dub. And it's like, I watch all of my shit subbed, but at the same time, I like watching an occasional dub. I like the fact that shows get dubbed, because in general, it makes it more accessible, and dub performances kind of open the door to somewhat alternate like tellings of how a character can be when seen through the lens of a different culture. So like, yeah, no, voice acting is fucking important. Dub work is fucking important. And the most important part of all of those are the people that are behind it. So again, if you can just see it in your heart to help out Billy with his battle, I would, again, appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Weird fact, but I'm actually wearing an Osamatsu-san shirt.
Oh, cool.
Sick.
Yeah, no, I like it's just a bunch of onomatopoeia, but
Mhm.
like in the corner, you can see like there's a little guy there. And,
Little
like, yeah,
man's.
little man.
I see.
No, I remember I picked this up from what was it, like Miniso or something? I don't know. The Uniqlo. That's what it is.
I had a friend who was showing me some games on his Switch. He was wearing a very poppy anime style shirt, but it was very derivative. And they were showing me like all of the games that they've been playing, and how they're getting excited how they were getting excited to play a bunch of different Guilty Gear games with their friends.
Oh.
Yeah, so they told me that they'd been playing Strive recently, and I was like, "Fuck, am I really gonna have to learn how to play this game instead of just mashing until my hands bleed?"
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Comparatively to the other like Guilty Gear games, like Strive is just a lot easier to learn. I know I had an easier time because Nick was teaching me Xrd a lot of the time, and I learned Soul. But I got to the point where I couldn't vibe with Soul and Strive. I learned Chip instead. And
sometimes that happens, man. I played Kai for as long as I could because he just felt like Jin Kisaragi to me, and then I just like dropped off it,
Yeah.
But I heard that there was a story mode coming out for the game, and I know Nick wants you and I to watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've found my in. I'm swoosing in like a snake, going after a very particular tree that may or may not have a fruit that could give you infinite knowledge. I found my in. So
did that man give it to you?
It could have been that man. It could have been Asuka. It could have been Happy Chaos. They're all three that, so it doesn't matter. That man is. Oh no, I'm not going into Guilty Gear lore. No, I'm not going into Guilty Gear.
Bedman.
That man. Bedman.
Bedwoman.
Bad guy.
Imagine not having a name for Terumi. It's just making him All For One.
Oh my god.
Because the guy acts like All For One.
Oh yeah,
like, it's so weird having an All For One villain in Guilty Gear, which is supposed to be like a really wacky like story plot wise, because like all the characters seem to like only barely fit in their niche.
Well, the thing is that with Guilty Gear plot, like that man has always been like this mysterious figure that's never been seen or really heard from. And then in like Guilty Gear 2, which was a Dynasty Warriors MOBA, essentially, they're like, okay, here's that man. He's like a weird cat boy. And then in Xrd, they like doubled down on it. And he's like, yeah, here's that man. He's like confirmed to be a fucking cat boy. And then it turns out, oh, hey, apparently he had someone that taught him how to do shit. Fast forward to Strive. And then that's when you get introduced to Asuka again, who is currently still that man. And then out of the ether, out of what is essentially like the womb of the universe, they spit out this guy named Happy Chaos, who was the original that man. So he's the one that taught Asuka everything he knew. And
so it's like Terumi with Hazama.
Kind of. They're their own individual people, but like. Happy
like Terumi and Hazama.
He really is just he goes off on his tangents. He's crazy, but he's also low key a philosopher. Like there's the taunt where he's all like, "The world is just one large carpet, but if you really look closely and pull at the thread, you'll find that it's one long string." And he just keeps going and going.
To the point where he's like if Arachne was sane
on the top.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna say sane, because Happy Chaos, like his whole shtick is that like,
or not degraded in a way that he can't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, the very very interesting fella.
But the thing that I wanted to get onto was so Guilty Gear Strive has this really fucking cool story mode. For those that don't know, it's like essentially like a big 4-hour anime like series essentially, and it's cut into a bunch of different episodes, and it was animated by like fucking 5 people, and it's all animated in game. So like it has like this weird kind of low budgety look to it. It has a lot of shit that's kind of awkward, but overall for like what it is, it might be one of the best anime you'll ever see. It's weird. Like I wish more games kind of made their story modes like this because it's just you're getting just like this really dumb blockbuster movie with all of these cool anime characters. And essentially with the last batch of DLC for the first season of Guilty Gear Strive, they've released Guilty Gear Strive Another Story, which is essentially a 40-minute extra episode that focuses on a bunch of the other characters that weren't really focused on in the original story mode, which is like half the goddamn cast.
Yeah. In this case, we get to hear from Baiken, Sin, Faust, May, Ramlethal, and a character she's shown up before, but not really like in this form, but we got Bed Woman or Delilah.
I was about to say her name is Delilah, you fucker.
I know.
It's Bedgirl.
Full disclosure. Yeah, full disclosure. I've actually seen the story. Nick hasn't. Lana hasn't. So I know what happens. But it's very good. It's definitely worth a watch. And like Nick had mentioned, he wants Lana and I to watch it. I think at this point, though, Lana's going to have to watch the Guilty Gear Strive story first.
I was going to say, Lana, instead of watching a certain movie we had potentially planned on watching next week, do you want to talk about the Guilty Gear story mode?
We might.
You really said, do you want instead of spending an hour and a half watching a movie that is written by Gen Urobuchi and has a soundtrack by Hiroyuki Sawano, you're like, hey, you want to spend 4 hours watching Guilty Gear and seeing a bunch of 5 people move around 3D models like it's Gary's mod?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm down. That sounds amazing.
That's your yes. Okay, all right.
That sounds incredible. No. We'll talk about it later. Maybe we could knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe we can make a plea deal to remove Tomo Game finally.
Yes. No more of this. Get it out of here.
You fool.
Oh, but speaking of that movie, Kai will know more about this than I do because I haven't seen it yet. But there was a new anime film that was released on Netflix called Bubble that was written by Gen Urobuchi and composed by Hiroyuki Sawano. Gen Urobuchi wrote the screenplay for Fate Zero. He wrote Song of Saya. He had a lot to do with the screenplay for Madoka Magica. He writes a ton of really, really like. He's the guy you go to when you want to write like misery porn. Like everything that this dude writes is like centered around just pure misery. Like another good example of that is like Psychopaths. Psychopaths had a lot of that where it's just like,
oh my god, yeah. I remember that. Oh,
if
like
long-time listeners of the podcast recognize that name, Gen Urobuchi, we did mention him briefly in episode 2, I think, where we talked about the Ruby anime.
That's right.
On that.
Yeah. I forgot about that. But yeah, it's like we have Gen Urobuchi who is
he's working on the Ruby anime.
Yeah.
Wait, so the misery porn guy is working on the Ruby anime?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. I wonder what
and
it's
again,
gonna be like.
This is the Ruby anime that is, going to be more focused on Weiss. It's going to be more. It's probably just going to be that. It's going to be misery.
Oh, it's just about Weiss. I guess if it is more
it's
about. It's
called
Weiss
Ice Queendom. It's going to be about Weiss.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, cool. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see how they explore that.
But there's also, Hiroyuki Sawano. You probably know him from I know him from Gundam Unicorn and All Noah Zero mostly.
He did Kill la Kill. He did Attack on Titan.
Xenoblade X.
Xenoblade
X. The best soundtrack.
He did Promare.
He did Promare. He did Recreators. The best soundtrack for the best show. So he's basically anime Hans Zimmer. I'm really excited. I kind of want to watch this movie mostly because real quick, I'm gonna go on this tangent, and then we're gonna move on because we're basically strapped for time tonight because it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll see what happens. Essentially, from what I've seen of this movie, I know nothing about the premise, but I saw someone post a cut on Twitter, and I'm like, damn, this looks gorgeous. And then in the comments below, everyone was like, oh yeah, the style carries this movie though. The story is like super duper like not good or generic or mid. And I'm over here just like, what? And then I was talking with you about it, Kai, and you were just like, oh yeah, it's really bittersweet. And I'm like, is this going to be one of those fucking things where people can't understand or deal with a story because it doesn't have a fucking happy ending in any way? Because if so, I'm going to kill someone.
I would say that's absolutely it. So I watched the movie in English dub with my brother the other night, and the one thing my brother had commented on was the movie felt like a Ghibli plot. It like with the way that like it was set up, it felt like something that Ghibli could have done, and I would agree. The sort of premise of the movie having this I don't want to spoil too much because like Nick and Lana haven't seen it. But the main girl Uta, we find out is like this happens really early on, so it's not really a spoiler. She is made out of these bubbles that have just kind of like rained down from the sky one day, and then these bubbles got angry and they exploded Tokyo because of course they did.
Tokyo can't catch a fucking break between this, Akira, Evangelion, and Sabiku Ibisco.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that. But essentially, a time passes. The Tokyo like is inside this bubble, and it's this huge area that nobody lives in. All of a sudden, these like I would want to say just delinquents. They decided, you know what? This is a good like empty area for us to do parkour in. So we're gonna do parkour competitions where you have to capture the flag. And like in this abandoned, dangerous area where there's like black holes are in like just randomly could pop up out of nowhere. There's like these like vortex like whirlpools that can kill you if you fall in them. Like it's just a disaster.
Parkour.
Yeah, but like the movie.
I mean, why would you want to do parkour in a place that's safe?
Exactly.
It defeats the purpose of parkour. If I want to do parkour, I want to be surrounded by Mega Man spikes.
No. But overall, I would say that after watching the movie, I'm not giving away too much so we can actually review it later. It's a nice movie. Yeah, it has a bittersweet ending. It definitely is kind of weird with the presentation of its story because it's not the kind of story that is going to be told to you through a lot of dialogue, and for certain beats to hit, like it's a lot of silence or a story just being told through character acting and the music, because of course it's Sawano. You have to have a music based thing somewhere, and if you couldn't tell from the fact that her name was Uta, the main girl has she has a weird tie to like this song that only she and the main character Hibiki can hear. But not going into again, not trying to go into too much. I'm really trying to like limit myself. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting talk once Nick, Lana, and I all watch the movie together and have our opinions on it.
That's reminding me of something. Everyone seems to have some goddamn opinions about Tomodachi Game.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I you know what? I hate to say it because after hearing, so before the podcast, we all watched together because Lana came to the realization that Tomodachi Game is just Jersey Shore in the sense that it's presented as a reality show.
Yeah, it's a show. Well, it's not a reality show. Okay, Tomodachi Game is presented on a streaming service, so it's not like we're watching it on syndicate television. So like the consumer is a little different than like the Jersey Shore or the Amazing Race or even like The Biggest Loser. It's probably trying to be something like The Biggest Loser, which is not a good thing to be. Is that the most fat shamey show of all time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at it. Let's look at it in that vacuum space though for a second. So in normal anime, this is a normal anime. They'd wanted the characters to be likable and compelling, but these people have decided that like we don't need that. we don't need that. This writer decided he wants these characters to be unlikable, so he's not going with a conventional status. So we need to review Tomodachi Game like we're consumers in universe. Okay? So we're 3 people watching this season, this group of people at Tomodachi Game, and I think it becomes a significantly better show if you do it like that. Honestly.
Oh yeah, because it means I could just shit on the characters. It's great.
Yeah. So let's look at Tomodachi Game, newest part of the second game that they played, because the second game, it feels like it's taking a long time. Like
It's taking a while.
I feel like we've been here for like 60 minutes and like 5 commercial breaks.
I think the issue is, even with where they end on this this game board in the show, we're only in like the first 20, maybe 30% of the board.
And there's so much like money already on the table, and we don't get to know that money. Does anyone have the math on that? Anyone? Did you guys read the cards?
No.
Did you guys read the cards? Because I could
not be bothered to, sit down, pause, and see this like, the show standing of these are the characters that owe this much, and like, this is their placement in the show.
And why do they keep
cutting
to Maria and Tsukino? Like all the time.
Because they need to show off one of their,
cute girls.
They need to show off her tits. Yeah.
So the internal dialogue, is that the confessionals after the show? Or is that like how they're going to or is that like just like we're able to read their minds for some reason, and they put the confessionals over them as commentary?
It's like the commentary you would get in Survivor, I would say.
No, that's what Lana's saying. Confessionals.
Yes,
it's a confessional.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Total Drama Island.
Yes, yeah.
So So I think the only person who hasn't advanced their character in the last couple of episodes is Manabu.
So you just said Total Drama Island, and my brain is like, yes, Total Dachi Island. Let's go. Total Dachi Game.
Listen, I need a dub where a fucking would you say the mascot's name is Manabu?
Manabu.
Yeah.
Okay, campers, for your next task, you're gonna have to lie to each other in this confessional, but don't leave before 3 minutes, or else you're gonna get going down that dock on the walk of shame and going home without $1 million. Capiche?
Or else you campers will have to eat Chef's special surprise.
Oh my fucking god.
And like Yuichi is already vomiting, like for the last time he had the special surprise.
Yuichi can't stop eating the special surprise. He has to eat so much shit.
So I think Shibe really put himself on the spot for absolutely no reason, and then totally got shafted. This Tenji guy is sus.
He is absolutely sus.
I think this Tenji guy is sus, and I think Yuichi has been standing around for like 20 minutes, and he's
just been standing there plotting, because like the entire episode we're just following Tenji and like his thoughts, and he's just all like, "Oh, I've got this planned out. They're never gonna find out that it was me because I'm strategizing, I'm thinking." And then, of course, he goes into his to do his card. He comes out. First thing he sees is Yuichi just slapping the shit out of her.
How did the camera so perfectly cut and to make it so then we didn't see their whole conversation? It's almost as if like they wanted to hide that conversation from us, so they put us in with Tenji for 45 freaking minutes. Yeah. Like also I think Tenji really played those two bitches against each other. So I don't think he should have done that though. He really put himself on the spot. He really got lucky with Shibe jumping in, because Shiho was 100% in Manabu's like fingertips.
100%. And like I can say right now, because you brought that up, like I'm almost certain what ended up happening there, and I haven't read the manga, so I don't know shit yet. I bet you she.
Can't, we're watching a show, Nick. Can't
You're
you tell?
right.
It's still
You're right.
happening.
Okay.
It's still how you. I don't know anything about their dads. The Tomodachi game has only just begun.
So I don't know.
What do you mean you've got the leaked WWE scripts?
Look, I was a producer on the show. I know shit in advance. I've been able to read the show guides. Except I can't.
Is that the reason why you're the only person in the entire world who likes Tomodachi Game?
Yes.
Because you worked on it?
Yeah, he works on it.
But, so they cut to Yuichi just slapping the shit out of Shiho. And I feel like the reason being, Shiho is probably talking shit about Tenji. Being like, hey, yo, Tenji's on some shit. Yuichi? Yeah, Tenji's on some shit. Kokorogi? Yeah, I think Tenji's on some shit. Shibe? I'm stupid and I can't hear anything and I'm going to be the fall guy. And so Tenji opening the door and then Shiho's probably talking about some shit. And then Yuichi's like, fuck, he's going to hear our plan. Got him. Perfect plan. The signal to stop talking about the plan was misogyny. Genius.
Damn. If that ends up being the case, I'm going to lose it.
If that is the case, I am a genius. I will be the perfect socio-political god of which everyone will have to bow down to me for figuring out a pretty simple setup and simple plot point. No, it's like honestly just they're doing a lot of setup for this shit and I can kind of see where it's going. But, you know, it's one of these things where people are unpredictable. You're not going to be able to tell what's going to happen once the cameras start rolling, you know?
No one's setting anyone up. These are real friends who really put themselves in real debt, Nick. You can't just you gotta watch them because they're playing the game, but who knows who's going to come out on top?
I mean, can we talk about at the end where you were hearing the confessionals from Tenji and he was just like, wait, I didn't write that note because he was talking about earlier how he really wanted to throw Shibe under the bus, but he decided at the last minute not to. And then we hear Shibe, not only is his dad a scumbag, but he killed somebody? That's just fucking wild. And I'm over here just like, who wrote that? And then in the back, you can just see Yuichi. He's just smiling. And you can tell this kid's scheming. You can tell. He's not right. That kid's not right.
They had the shot of just like you just see his smile with like, you know, you see like the gums and his teeth and everything. I'm like, I was like, where have I seen that before? Where's like disgusting teeth? I'm like, it's the fucking shot in Girl in the Gone episode 4 where Kamina asks Kiton to show him his teeth, and he just like goes and it's that fucking shot. I'm like, oh, that's why. It's just gross.
True.
See, I love that shit because like for me, we're breaking kayfabe here for a second.
Sure.
Whenever I see a shot like that of like realistically rendered teeth that looks, because like when someone's tooth smiles, I'll tell you right now, it's never endearing when you do a tooth smile. It always looks fucking gross.
You always look like Shrek.
Like you always look like you're super forcing it. But like when you see a toothy smile like that, you know someone's on some fucking shit. And like they always look fucking ugly, and seeing that properly rendered in animation where someone is giving a toothy smile and they look like a shitter, I fucking love that. God damn. Once again, I'm apparently Tomodachi Game's strongest soldier.
Yeah. Speaking of something that we all love, why don't we talk about our favorite Three Kings boy? The Three Kings.
Do you like Kongming? I don't have a lot to say about this episode, honestly.
Yeah. So this episode, we didn't even really focus on Eiko or Kongming all that much. We got introduced to a new character, Kabe Taijin, who is a underground Japanese rapper.
I actually little bit of a spoiler on the character. I like him a lot.
Oh yeah, as soon as I like we got to know more about him, and then he actually shows up. They added him into the ED. I was like, oh, I love him. He's great.
Yeah, this guy is actually super hype, and I'm very excited for people to see what's going on with Kabe Taiji. I think okay, so there's a point where we finally get a little bit of a musical number with Kongming, and that is just
and he
the
pulls
biggest
out
setup.
the most confusing genjutsu I've ever seen in my entire life. Like what? I don't know what happened.
So, just to set the scene, Kabe, who is this underground rapper, he's feeling real down on himself because it's like, oh, he loves to do rap. He loves to spit fucking bars. He's really fucking good at it too. But he's gone to so many competitions and he's kept winning them and winning them and winning them. And they kind of talk about how, oh yeah, the weight of the crown and whatnot. And like how when you keep winning and winning and winning, people get expectations of you. People that used to look up to you now want to see you fall. And like all of that stress has taken such a toll on him that he's constantly working, he's not sleeping, and he ends up suffering from a stomach ulcer on stage, passing out and having to like go to a doctor, to the point where he's like, yeah, I can't do this. This is killing me. If I keep doing these rap battles, I'm going to die. So he got really well known though, to the point where everyone in the rap scene's like, yo, you better come back, motherfucker. And he's like, I'm dying. And so he has a reputation. He walks into a laundromat, and here we see squatting Slav Kongming chilling, waiting in the laundromat, trying to get some shit done. Kabe is like, I'm not comfortable with this dude here. He looks whack. Like,
yeah, he's like, is this guy looks like Kongming? What the fuck? Is this guy actually Kongming?
Can I also just say, there are too many people that know about fucking Three Kingdoms.
Oh yeah.
Too many.
You know what? I think that's kind of why I love the manager, because he's just so obsessed with Three Kingdoms. Where there's this part where so at this point, you know, Aiko's like, man, Kongming says he's going to get this rapper so I can start, you know, singing with them so I can boost my own following. I wonder what this rapper is going to be like. And Aiko's thinking like, okay, what would Kongming do of a rapper? And her image of a rapper was like this really big buff dude with like a giant microphone. And then Kongming's like, oh yes, sir, please rap. And then he just goes, roar! He just smashes all these like chairs and shit. He's like, no, manager, sir, we need to get like reinforced tables and shit. And he's just like, oh, what kind of rapper do you think Kongming's going to get? And she's like, oh, well, what kind of rapper do you think he's going to do? He's like, oh, I know what I want. I want a rapper who's obsessed with Three Kingdoms, so he can just rap about Three Kingdoms. It'll be great.
And he's such a boomer about it, and his bars suck. But
they're terrible.
So what ends up happening here at this point is fucking Kongming starts gaslighting Kabe, and is just like, oh, hey, I know you're a rapper. I know you're real good. And guess what? I'm going to give you some meaning in life. And then Kabe is like, fuck you. Don't fucking talk to me. You don't know me. And then all of a sudden, Kongming gets up and is like, bet. And he started spitting fucking bars. God damn, dropping fucking bars on this kid. Running around him in an LSD vortex.
The entire time? He was chanting the entire time. He wasn't actually rapping, but like it was phonetically the way it was presented, like it was actually really good.
It was very articulate Japanese slam poetry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that is episode 5's unfortunate Homestuck reference. This slam poetry was very it was intention. I believe that the portrayal was like intentionally like supposed to be like old style slam poetry to look like freestyle rap, and that fits this character so well because he would know that like that's the only way that he could portray that with his aesthetic. No, and he knew that there was just nothing he could do except just be like a thorn in this guy's side, and that would be enough to goad him, you know.
Yeah, and like going back to Kabe for a second here, like you really go in depth as to how he's feeling about all of this, because the entire time he's walking home, he's like mumbling to himself like rhymes that he is just coming up with on the fly. He goes home, he gets a present from his mother. By getting a present from his mother, he starts writing down lyrics and rhymes to shit that he can throw out. and he's like trying to just like get the rhythms down going as he's writing it. He catches himself and is just like, no, fuck this, and starts throwing shit away. And then like his phone is constantly blowing up. People telling him, hey, yo, you better get back in on this shit. And like he feels torn. He really, really wants to continue doing the thing that he does, but he does not want to have the pressure of constantly being associated with being the best. He cannot do it alone. And so Kongming sees this, how Kabe is weak by himself. He's like, hey, yo, there's someone who needs you, someone who needs a partner. And then Kabe's like, fuck off. You're not going to make me do shit. And so he's just like, okay, you're going to be that guy. And so after he spits the most immaculate Sutra bars you've ever seen, he's like, okay, Kabe, meet me at the club, BB. We're going to have a rap battle. And he's like, fuck you, I'm not coming. And then he shows up at the club. He's like, well, I guess I'm doing this, I guess.
Well, he also had the ultimatum of, what is it? If I win, you have to sing with Eiko. If you win, I will grant you one wish.
What's Kongming gonna do?
Like, he looked at this man, he's just like, what are you, genie? Whatever. Like, you're weird. And he walks out, Kongming is like, he called me weird. If this were another time, I probably would be mad, but I'm not. I've grown used to being called weird now.
Kongming's a goat.
He really is.
Kongming is literally the goat, but like, oh my fucking god. I want the next episode so bad because I can tell you right now, we are going to see some shit. I'm so excited. I'm actually kind of mad that Kabe is already in the ED because I'm like, I feel like they should have saved that for when he actually got to perform in the episode, you know?
That's true.
But like in general, like this episode, because like the previous episode we had of them being like, oh, you got to get 100,000 likes. Like that episode felt very slow paced. It felt very personal in a way, but not until like the very end. But with this, they're giving me Kabe, this character that literally I feel like when I'm looking at him, I'm looking in a mirror because I'm the type of person that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to basically kill myself to do the thing that I love, to the point where I've lost a lot of sleep just working on various goddamn projects, which may or may not include this podcast. You'll never know my sleeping habits. But in general, like I see this kid working himself to the bone to the point of both physical exhaustion and degradation. And I'm just like, I hate the fact that they just made a character that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love it.
I think that Kongming used all of the tools necessary to get this guy in the exact situation he wanted him in. And I think that his little freestyle in the laundromat was an example of things to come. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it.
I'm just going to say that freestyle in the laundromat already might be top 10 anime battles. And if the next episode is anything like that, we're going to get #1 anime battle of all time.
All right, so it's time for the moment that Kai's been waiting for.
It's time to talk about my favorite show. And I'm not even being like facetious. I'm being serious. This is my favorite show. It's airing right now. Spy Family. God damn. I will talk about this show forever. Episode 4 of Spy Family. We are introduced to a little bit of the academy that they are trying to get Anya to enroll into. And by God, I will say, this episode, to me, really screamed of the, hey, remember, this is an action comedy series. So there's a lot of really off-the-walls, like, you know, stuff that happens in this episode. As an accident, not as a test to, you know, the people as they're coming in. And Nick, I assume you want to, like, go in more into depth of what the situation is.
Yes.
With the school.
So, the prestigious Eden Academy is the school that Lloyd and Yor, I guess, by extension, kind of, sort of, are pushing to get Anya into. And it's what Lloyd has been preparing them for, since essentially the reason he's needing to get into this school is that his target only shows up at social gatherings at that school. And the only way he can get in and have like a place of status is if he has a kid there. Hence why he has to get a kid and a wife. So he's finally done that. He has gotten his kid and his wife. They're still a little scuffed by his standards, but he's just like, well, I mean, I got this. I got to work with it. So they show up at the academy. They're as ready as can be. And like immediately, because all these guys are pretentious pricks, they're literally looking at every single family walking down, getting ready for the interviews. And they're failing people for like having slouches, not having the right walk, not being dressed 100% right. If you're not nobility, if you're not first, you last. If you're not noble, you're a peasant. Get the fuck out. You don't deserve to be in this school. And so it gets to the point where Lloyd, being the super spy that he is, has prepared every single contingency possible to make sure that he impresses everyone. The first thing that happens is while they're walking down the hall, just like the courtyard, Lloyd, Yor, and Anya stand by the statue of the founder and they show their respect. And then up on the top, the headmaster is watching all of this go down. The headmaster being the best fucking character ever. He's the best. Henry goddamn Henderson.
My mans.
My man. And so he's seeing this shit. And the moment he sees it, he's like, oh, so elegant. And so they're just continuing on their way. And
I'd like to cut you for just a second.
Yes.
So he is a housemaster. He is not the headmaster of the school.
Okay.
Yes. He is a history teacher and a housemaster, and he is one of like the oldest employees, I believe. Like he's just one of like the biggest alumni for this school. So he's supposed to be a representation of what Eden Academy believes itself to be. Because like remember, like there is he's supposed to be like the one who's a patriot of like, or what do they call it? An alumni? Yeah,
alumni.
He's a dedicated alumni to the craft that is the school, Eden Academy. Not necessarily like just like a part. He's not so easily swayed by the person's status if they're able to prove their elegance. At least now, because like this episode was actually like what seems like a huge wake up call for Henry Henderson.
And we definitely end up seeing more of that because Henry sees Lloyd, Yor, and Anya, and he's like, "Oh, there's no way that this kid is like actually worth it." Because he sees Anya's tests. Anya has handwriting that looks like my handwriting, and in general, she scored a 31, I think, and like barely passed. And he's looking at them, being like, "Oh, yo, they look so elegant, but." She only scored a 31 on this test. And
yeah, she's totally fake.
Yeah, she's totally fake. There's no way.
This is made up.
Fake children, fake kids.
And he's like a 31 child is a 31 parent. Like that's so like he had like that standard that kind of society would start to like be consumed by. But Lloyd had as Kai said, this is a comedy. He had a comically exorbitant amount of overthinking put into this process, which makes sense. I mean, if you whiff this interview, bro.
Yeah, if you whiff this interview, you're done.
You're finished.
You need a million contingencies just in case. And so they make it past the first stage, and then the second stage, you know, it's high society. You send your kids here to learn the best of the best. Lloyd looks over to the left and he sees that there's this kid wallowing around in what is essentially a sewage gutter. And this kid has been forced to do this by the teachers to get extra merits. And he's just like, "Oh, help me. I'm covered in sludge and I can't get out." Oh, and he starts splashing everywhere. And it's like, oh no, if we save this kid, that's our clothes are going to get dirty. But at the same time, they're testing us, and I can tell that they're testing us. So Anya's like, "Mother, father, we must go and save that child." And then Lloyd's like, "Yeah, let's go do that." So Lloyd walks over, no cells, just throws his leg into the gutter, rips this kid out of the fucking ground with one fucking hand, lands perfectly onto the ground, and he's like, "You okay, kid?" And he's like completely covered in sludge. And then the kid's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, because of me, you're gonna fail." And then Lloyd's like, "Oh, no, don't worry about that. We happen to bring an entire different set of clothes just for such an occasion. And even then, we would have looked like country bumpkins in our previous outfits. So now we can change to our much spiffier outfits. So you know what, young man? I thank you." And then the kid's just like,
What
"These
the fuck was
people
that?
are weird."
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
What do you mean you brought an extra change of clothes to an interview? What?
That's basically what Henry Henderson said. He was just like, "What do you mean they brought another change of clothes? That's crazy. How'd they think that far ahead?" Like, okay, so that's not sus, really? No one's gonna bat an eye.
I guess not.
All right, cool. That must be the callousness of high class or something. Maybe that's what they're trying to say there. Okay.
So from here, it's like, okay, cool. They've changed outfits. We're moving on. Everybody's walking out. And all of a sudden, oh no! All of the farm animals have fucking broken loose out of their cage, and they're just like, wait, are we okay with that? Like, is this fine?" And then they look at the housemaster, and they're like, you didn't tell us to do that. He's like, "Wait, what? This is really happening. This is a real accident. Oh no."
This one, on the inverse of things, is a very funny play off of that previous joke, where it was ridiculous that Lloyd Forger would bring an extra set of clothes, but it is not ridiculous to send a stampede of dangerous animals and groups of people to put them in danger, until you find out that it is not okay that they did that.
And like, straight up, I remember I've read the manga, but when I was reading the anime, or when I was watching the anime, I was like, "Oh yeah, there's the stampede of animals." And my brain was like, "Yeah, I forgot the people at the school were this fucking crazy." And then Henderson and everyone's talking to the staff, and it's like, "Wait, no, that's not a bit. That's not a bit." And my brain's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this part. I got played."
Now I want to talk for 5-10 seconds about the stampede. There is one horse who is absolutely losing his fucking mind during this stampede. Whoever animated that horse deserves a medal. Anyway.
So right here, this scene in particular, and I'm going to go back and forth here with this one because it's my second favorite part of the episode. Because there's a point where you're seeing all the animals come in, and Lloyd's grabbing on, Yor has Anya, and Lloyd is running, and they're like, "Shit, we gotta do something about these fucking animals. They're gonna take us all down." And like, Lloyd's like, "Do I use my gun? Oh god, I'm gonna have to use my gun." And then Yor's like, "Hey yo, hold this," and she just throws Anya into Lloyd's arms, and then Yor is a Super Saiyan and just swooses. And I was reading about this, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but I want to assume it's true.
8 trigrams, 2 palms, 4 palms,
8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms.
He's down.
So she runs up to this cow that looks suspiciously like one Gene Simmons, and hits the pressure points on this cow to make him pass the fuck out. And when she lands, the leggings that she's wearing, because those aren't meant for extreme combat, just tear. Because yeah, we want to see the hot mom in torn leggings. How did you know that I was this easy? But also, apparently, like, the pressure point shit she was doing may or may not be used in the preparation of Kobe beef. Which is mind-blowing.
That she should have just said in the interview, "I'm the one who pressure pointed your cow. I could have made my husband Kobe beef at any time." that would have, I think Henry Henderson would have cried. Anyway, I found both pictures of the horse and sent them to Amu.
Yes.
these are really good stills. They really do define what was happening. So in the first scene with the horse is doing this thing where he's flipping his head around like he's one of those horse mask people from like the memes in 2012. And then the second one, it's just a still shot. One of the horses is losing it, but one of the horses is really losing it. Like here for you guys.
Oh God, hang on. I need to see this picture again. I love
Yes.
these horses so goddamn much.
Just this is it. What
It's
the
so
hell?
good.
God, they almost look like they would be titans.
Yes. This
This is
and
just
that
the horse
makes
titan.
sense. That does make sense. That is the same animation company as the original Attack on Titan, right?
Yeah, it is. It's Wit Studio.
So there you go. Like
going
that
back
is
to
a
the
logical conclusion.
Yeah, going back to the scene though, and Yor has done these pressure points, and Lloyd and Anya are looking at her like, okay, and her excuse just, I used to do yoga, and yeah, they said pressure points would help relax. I don't know, like.
And unfortunately, Lloyd is too entrenched in the mission to do anything except go, yeah, okay, because he's got to move on to other things.
He has bigger fish to fry. And so Henry Henderson comes down and is like, okay, you two have proven your mettle. You all go, get yourself tidied up, come back, and we're going to do this interview. And then Lloyd's like, oh, no, sir, that will not be necessary. A true gentleman and their family always come prepared with a third set of clothes. And then Henry's like, these people are weird. And even Henry, who at this point has lost his fucking mind to the point where when he saw Lloyd's family save everybody, he goes on this soccer-fueled breakdown where his face contorts and he's moving his body all over the place, and he's just like, they're so elegant, and he begins running down the hallway at top speed, meets them, and then has to deal with the fact that the people that he has been gushing over are fucking weirdos, man.
And he likes it. He thinks that they're weirdos in a fun way.
Like, he's eating it up. And then you get to the actual interview, which leads to the man who has gone through the speed run of becoming the most hated anime character in the least amount of time possible. This dude was RTA from, like, 0 to fuck you. Like that. Fucking, he shows, this guy's name is like Swan. There's 3
Murdoch Swan is his name.
Yeah, there's 3 interviewers. There's Murdoch Swan, there's the guy that we already knew, Henry Henderson, and then there's a third guy whom I have forgotten his name. I just know.
Oh my god, the regular looking guy.
Yeah, he's just the regular guy.
But that's like his gimmick, is that he was the regular guy, because he was supposed to be
Graham
like the
Evans,
unbiased
I believe?
one.
Yes, it's Evan, actually. It is Graham Evans.
I believe it's something Evans, yeah.
Yeah, it's Evans. And like,
Thank you.
he's like normal. And then you have fucking Henry, who's a fucking weirdo. And then you have Swan, who's just like a jealous fuck up. And so they're interviewing and they're asking like normal questions, like, oh, you know, how'd you meet your wife? We want to know what your family's like. You know, how's your parenting and whatnot? You know, basic things that you would ask. And then they start asking like Anya some questions, and like it starts turning into, well, why do you want to go to the school? And it's like, and so Anya's panicking because she forgot what to say. And so she's like, and so she reads her dad's mind. And then Lloyd's like, well, first we have to get in, and then I should be able to confront the boss of the organization. And then Anya's like, I want to have a talk with the boss of the organization. And Lloyd on command is like, what?
What are you doing? What?
And so he completely picks up the ball that Anya just fumbled and is like, no, she's really looked up to a lot of the headmasters and the work that they've been doing, and she really wants to learn from them by example. And then Henry's like, I've underestimated this girl. She's incredible. But no, hold up. He's like, oh, that is admirable to want to learn from someone older at such a young age. how dedicated are you to this? And then Anya's like, I'd be willing to go through hell and high water to work through the jungle and fight my way to victory. And then fucking Lloyd is like, you just got that from fucking anime, you piece of shit. But Henry
Like,
is
oh yeah, I saw you watch that on TV the other day.
and then Henry, once he hears that like bombastic speech from this 4-year-old, allegedly 6-year-old girl, he's like, holy fuck, she's so metal! And he's just going off. He's all about this kid. He loves this fucking kid. And then Swan starts talking.
Yeah, I will say there is another question that gets asked about your and how like she like, oh, do you like what do you do at home, like what do you teach your daughter, what do you cook and stuff? And your essentially says like, yeah, she wants to instill in her like good morals, but she doesn't cook all that much. Lloyd does most of the cooking, and of course Swan just immediately is a piece of shit and is all like, wait a minute, you're telling me the wife doesn't do the cooking? That's what she has to do. Like that's what the women do. And then of course Lloyd's just like, well, I mean, she cleans instead. Like she spends a lot of time teaching Anya, making sure she's good, and like she takes care of the house. Like I do the cooking. That's just what I do. And Swan's just like, oh well, like she's a woman. She should be cleaning anyway. Like that's just a thing women do.
God, it's so fucked up.
It's fucked up. They then start asking the question to Anya, like, how would you rate your parents? How would you score your parents? And she says 100%. My parents are fantastic. I love them and I want to be with them forever. I want to stay together. And Swan, of course, takes this moment to say, so which do you like better, your new mother or your old mother? And Anya starts crying because she's
you don't ask
here.
that to somebody.
You don't say this to a child. And of course, as this is happening, Yor and Lloyd are just like, you've gone too far. Lloyd straight up says like, can we not answer this question? Or it's also subbed as can I please request that we don't answer that question? And then Swan's like, no, it's just part of the assessment. You have to answer the question. It's vital.
Like this dude is going out of his way to just like arise from the
for
sludge
context.
pits.
Lloyd has done his research on Swan. Swan just got divorced by his wife and lost custody of his child.
Yeah, so he's salty. He's super salty.
And what's incredible is that even though okay, so the cinematic the pacing here was very very good in the fact that you can listen to Lloyd following the beats of the mission, and then when the casualties that could occur from the mission start to become direct, as in like damage to Anya, he starts to slowly graze off of his plan for the mission. Because if he stuck to every plan, he probably could have pushed that interview. You know what I mean? Like just let Anya like cry there and like handle it, and then like just made more calming statements before he did any of the actions that he would proceed to do. And then he stopped just like protecting or like letting himself and his family take punishment by these people, because he just thought that was just absolutely unethical, which makes sense because this guy's just kind of being a huge piece of shit. Like any normal person would snap, but Twilight's supposed to not be a normal person in these situations, and this time he was.
And so at this point, Swan has been saying all of this awful shit. Anya is crying her eyes out. You have Yor, who has moved to try to console her, and in general this problem is quickly escalating. And there is one scene in particular with a little bit of character acting that I fucking love. It's Swan's talking shit, and then Yor is just like, I'm sorry, fucking what? And like she raises her hands and she has a little bit of a twitch in her fingers. And it's that moment again that this show so well just succeeds at doing. And it's showing that click of that swap between the random like everyday mom that you always see that loves her child to death, and the cold-blooded goddamn killer. And I think what's interesting here is she's not the only one that hits that fucking switch. Like, she's about to fucking kill this like swan dude. He's about to end up buried in the back of a shed somewhere. And all of a sudden, the camera cuts. And in the manga, this was also incredibly impactful because you see Yor, and then it immediately like cuts to Lloyd, and he is essentially vaulting over a desk. He's completely shaded in his face, dark, and you can tell he wants to kill this fucking guy.
He's having his Will Smith moment.
He's having his Will Smith arc, exactly.
He literally stares this man down, and as he's about to punch him, says in his inner monologue, Twilight, calm down. Don't do this. And so instead, the anime cuts to an exterior of the building, and all you hear is a huge bang, like a smash. And it cuts back to inside the room, and we see Lloyd's bloody ass hand just rising up as it's dripping blood. Swan is like, back against the couch, like, holy fuck. We see the table is just smashed. It's just, there's this blood everywhere, and Lloyd goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. There was a mosquito." And you just see this corpse of a mosquito right where he punched the table.
What a fucking lord. And like, at this point, Lloyd, hand bloodied, gets a little bit of a handkerchief. He like wipes it a bit and walks over to Anya and Yor and is like, "Well, we're leaving." And then Swan's like, "No, come back." And then Lloyd turns to them after hearing all of this and is just like, if this school is a school that will go out of their way to dehumanize children like this, then no, this isn't the right school for us. And so he leaves, and this unlocks a feeling within Henry in that he was so just obsessed with this idea of elegance, this perfect family, this high society mindset, like sucking up to other people, in that it made him kind of lose his goal of, at the end of the day, he shouldn't care about that. He's an educator, and he wants to train the future. He wants kids to be in a position where they can live their lives without worries, so that they have the knowledge that they need to make it out in the world. And he's seeing all of this red tape, all of this bullshit from Swan, whose father was a previous headmaster. So he has some clout over like Henry.
Yeah, Swan got into the school and got his job through nepotism.
Exactly.
So, like, he's just a shitter. He's absolutely just a shitter, like, through and through. Henry just decides, like, okay, hey, Swan, yeah, Swan's argument is like, oh, well, like they've like ruined the reputation of the school. They've like dirtied and sullied us. And Henry's just like, who really made this school look bad today? Swan's like, what? And it just cuts, and Swan's just face is there. It gets smashed in with fucking Henry's fist. He hits the ground. Henry's just like, I believe I was acting very elegant in that situation. If you do ask, if you do say so myself.
Oh my god. And then after that, we cut back to the house with probably one of my favorite pieces of character acting in the show. You're going to hear me say that a lot. I'm so sorry. Like, this show has
such a good show. Like, I feel like you don't have to apologize for that. It's just a good show.
I think one of the best things about it, about like the show's emotional range, because it's a comedy, is that they can have really raw moments like this, and then they can bounce back so easily.
Yes, it definitely works in its favor that way. And like, that kind of shows where it's like you have this one moment where Lloyd is like super hatched. He's very dark. He's going in, lunging in almost an inhuman body shape as he's about to lunge at somebody and end their fucking life. And then in the next shot that he's in, yeah, he's still kind of hunched over, but he's hunched over, his head like almost between his knees. His pupils are dilated, and he's just like, no, yeah, we're done for. This is fucking done. Fuck, dude. And like at this point, he's depressed because he knows they bombed that interview. Because just like any other interview, like, you know, I've interviewed at Target before. You're definitely not going to get the job if you assault the general manager most of the time. I got lucky once.
Oh, yeah.
Like one time I got really lucky. Just duffed the guy and he's like, I like the cut of your jib.
Actually?
No.
Oh my, I was really starting to believe you for a second. I was like, really? Oh my God.
That is my practice of whenever I apply to a retail store. The first thing I do the moment I get the interviews, I shake their hand and then I uppercut them Ippo style. If they don't go down, then I know that they're strong enough to hire me.
So the gazelle punch is your go-to, it seems.
Gazelle punch is what I do when they offer me the job. That's true.
Wow. Again, I'm surprised, Nick, that you go for an uppercut instead of a headbutt.
There's our headbutt for the episode.
Gotta get it in once, you know?
Oh, fuck. But essentially, at this point, Lloyd is a doomer. He's just constantly posting doomer takes on ye old World War II Twitter. And then Anya and Yor are just like, it's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. The other two loved us. I'm sure we're gonna get in. They pour tea for themselves. They're like, "Kampai," and they clank their glasses together. And then their family portrait that's hanging on the wall just hits the fucking floor. And then they're like,
"Oh,
that's not
no.
good."
Yeah, I will say you missed one small little thing when they're trying to console Lloyd. They have a little moment with Lloyd and Anya where Lloyd is like, "Oh, well, you know, we failed. Like, I'm sorry. Like, well, you're not gonna have to go to the school. That's good." And Anya grabs the clothing on his knee and just puts her head against his leg and just says like, "I want to go to the school. I want to, you know, go to the school and make sure this mission is a success. Because if this mission fails, then we won't be together."
So there's something about that I want to bring up real quick as just a small aside now that you brought that up. I like how they don't show you mouth flaps because you can't tell if that was an internal monologue or if she actually said that. Did she actually let her guard down enough to talk about something that she shouldn't have known about that Lloyd just let slide? Or was she simply just thinking that and was silent?
I'm gonna be really pissed if, like, at the end of the show, Lloyd just goes, "Oh, I knew you were an S for all along." I'd be so mad. That'd be the biggest cop out in my life. But like, if that was the case, then this would be like probably one of the points where Lloyd would start getting a little more actively suspicious of how Anya's able to hard read him so well, because like he just kind of like tokens it to, I don't understand kids right now.
Yeah,
but that's a very it doesn't matter, man, woman, or child, what you are. What matters is like what you're actually expressing. So there's a couple things that look into it, but like after that moment, they seem to start to try to be more optimistic until the symbolism of their family photo falling on the ground.
And then they're just looking at it and they're like, "Oh."
Now I am optimistic about the Forgers, not just because of the plot, but also because I decided I was going to say that I just ordered, like, to look on the bright side, I just ordered this really cool Yu-Gi-Oh themed playmat that's based off of Spy Family, and like this really cute Anya pin, which I already sent the references to Amu. And I decided, I want to pull up like things to describe the mat and all of the cool like little Spy Family based merchandise that I got recently. And as I did that, I noticed that the things I missed out on buying because they were sold out when I went to make my cart were back on sale. So now I have these cute Anya Your Forger Tri-Brigade sleeves coming in that I'm actually going to use. I'm very excited about those.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah, so you can check out monomoon.com for that, and you'll see the pictures on the screen whenever Amu decided to put them up. It's probably the point where he goes, yeah, I put them up, and then I shut up, and I'll do that now.
All right. Well, that's it for Spy Family. God,
I was going to ask,
that was a
though,
good episode.
When do we get sponsored by indie TCG companies?
whenever we stop talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, because they want us to talk about Magic.
Yeah, we will talk about Yu-Gi-Oh again once they give us money. I think that's fair.
That's not going to happen. We're going to talk about
It's
Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just going to happen.
We're going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh. It's fine.
It's just going to happen. So now we can get on to the first tab that I made when I woke up today. Jujutsu Kaisen episode 13.
Oh boy.
Episode 13. Episode 13.
Unfortunately, because of our 3-episode format, this is actually the end of an arc. But it's the beginning of our arc for today, because this is from the versus Mahito arc, as they call them. The episode's titled Tomorrow, which I believe will become more apparent by the end of the review of the episode, which probably shouldn't take that long. It was a lot of fighting. Do you guys want to talk about the fighting?
All I'll say about the fight is that this was one of the fights where, as everything was happening, I don't forget if I mentioned this on the podcast or if it was just on the watch-alongs, but I've been having a really hard time really getting into Jujutsu Kaisen when it comes to some of the fights, because it's a lot of shonen tropes and stuff that like I've kind of seen before.
But they also but they also end fast.
Oh yeah, no, they absolutely do. But I think this fight with Mahito was one of the first times I sat there and I looked at the visuals and like the animation they were doing, and I was like, wow, this is really cool.
No, you were actually freaking out.
Yeah. Like it was just a very nice visual experience. Along with some of the other fights that we got to watch in the other episodes, but like there was definitely a lot of really cool stuff. I know Nick was freaking out over some of the smear frames that were happening when Itadori was fighting these little transmogrified humans.
Yes. Yeah. So essentially, the way it starts is Itadori and Kento are just okay. So Kento and Itadori are talking. And Kento's like, okay, so you can hit this guy and hurt him, right? And then Itadori is like, yeah, I punch him and he bleeds. That's what happens when I punch everyone else. What's the issue? And then Kento's like, I'll explain later. I'm gonna like keep him occupied and you're gonna punch him. And so that's essentially what Kento and Itadori do. And this turns into, for the first part of this fight, just Kento on one side beating the shit out of him, and then Mahito being like, oh, and just getting knocked to one side, and then Itadori on the other side just pummeling the shit out of this guy, and like every time he gets hit, the impact feels so goddamn visceral. It felt like I was watching a real goddamn fight. And like when I was watching this, I was just screaming, "Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!"
I did think it was kind of silly when he turned into a Mega Man Death Spike for a little while. That was also like an extended sand spur. But he did describe what was happening during the fight like pretty accurate. He was like, "Man, this is a silly time for me to do a boss mechanic. I'm getting my ass kicked." And then he got out of that form, because I think this guy's also learning how to fight from these fights.
Yeah, 100%. He's still like they've already gone out of their way to be like, this dude's literally a child.
Yeah, he's learning. He's kicking ass, but he's still learning.
Yeah. And so it gets to the point where he's like, okay, I don't want this Itadori guy around. So he throws a bunch of babies at him, essentially. And Itadori is like, it leads to this really interesting shot where it's like a bird eye view, and Itadori is having to fight off these kids. And you don't have like any sort of like big details in terms of like facial animation or anything, but you get this really interesting shot from this bird's eye view of this beautiful movement with some of these amazing smear frames of Itadori trying his best just to fight off these fucking kids. And like the kids are just like, oh, why won't you play with me? And like it cuts to a shot of his face as he's essentially strangling one of these kids. And there's just so much anguish. There's so much emotion. And it cuts to another one of when they have him pinned and they're asking Itadori, please kill me. And so we don't see what happens at that point because it cuts back to Kento and Mahito. And Kento's kind of pinned to a wall. He's getting his ass kicked. And he's just like, well, I mean, I don't got to worry because I know Itadori's going to come save me here any minute. And then Mahito's like, what are you talking about? Those kids are going to murder the shit out of him because Itadori won't kill something that's alive. And then Kento's like, do you not hear the character development happening right now? Hang on. 3, 2, and then all of a sudden Itadori comes out of fucking nowhere off of the top of the building, off of the top rope, and just lands on Mahito and just starts kicking the shit out of him.
He kind of Undertaker teleported. He did do a little bit of an Undertaker teleport to show up, and it was just like, damn, bro, all right.
This is the most WWE episode of Jujutsu Kaisen that we have watched so far.
It's very well sequenced, like because it's still going at like a fair enough speed that you can kind of like respect how much hustle these characters are putting into this battle.
There's so much weight, and like that's actually something these last few episodes and the new opening, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. You can see the sense of weight in this animation. There's a lot of it, and a lot of this comes to a head when Mahito, so, you know, just like every other normal person, he opens his mouth and he has a set of hands in there. Because why not? And he unleashes his domain. And in that domain, he catches Kento, but leaves Itadori outside because he knows Itadori can hurt him, but Kento can't. So he's like, okay, I'm going to trap Kento in here. And you know, the whole shtick of if a sorcerer is in a domain, then the person who has the domain, if they throw an attack, it's not going to miss, and you're going to die. And then Kento's like, wow, I'm trapped in here? This is fucking bullshit. Being a sorcerer sucks. I quit this shit for a reason. And then we just get a flashback of Kento's goddamn origin out of fucking nowhere?
We do just get his whole backstory, like, handed to us in the middle of this fight.
In the middle of this fight, he's going to he just goes into his mind palace. And he meets this girl at a bakery after he had quit being a jujutsu sorcerer and instead works as like a manager in a fucking hedge fund. And she's just like, oh, hey, you know, enjoy your sandwich. Have a good day. He looks over and sees that a demon is possessing her by resting on her shoulder. But he's just like, that's not my problem. So he goes into the office at the hedge fund and they're just like, we got to sell these shitty stocks to rich people. And he's like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? So he goes back to the bakery like the next day and gives.
But by the way, at this point, they did mention he has been working at this company for 2 years.
Yes, he's been working at this shitfest company for 2 goddamn years. So he goes back to the bakery, sees the demon on her shoulder, and she's just like, "Wow, I've been really tired and fatigued lately." And he's like, "Yeah, I could tell." And she's like, "How did you know?" He's just like, you know, reasons. And essentially, he realizes that this girl is suffering and he could have done something to stop it, but he didn't. And he realizes that he's in a position to where he can do some good, even if it isn't exactly what it is that he wants to do. It makes him feel far more fulfilled to do that good than to work some shitty 9-to-5 job scamming rich people out of a service that's not even needed in the grand scheme of the entire world, that makes proportionately more money than jobs around the world that are actually needed, like making food. And it's like actually a rather insightful commentary on how a lot of big paying jobs and how if you look at a lot of them aren't actually fucking necessary in comparison to a lot of the shit that we look at as low skilled labor that actually keep the world fucking moving. And so he helps this girl, exorcises the demon. She's just like, oh, I feel so much better. Oh, please, sir, come back at some point. Thank you. I appreciate it. And then he's walking away. He calls Gojo. He's like, hey, Gojo, I'm going to swing by the academy. We need to talk. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? And Gojo is apparently just laughing his fucking ass off at the fact that Kento is the one that came back. So we cut back. Kento's like, yep, I'm probably going to die here. Oh, wow, this sucks. And then Itadori, hearing, wait, Kento's going to die? Hold up. And he just smashes through the top of the domain using almost nothing but just sheer gumption. Like, I'm pretty sure he just fisted this fucking orb until he fell his way in. And the MacGuffin, the caveat to all of this bullshit, is Mahito looks at Itadori, and because of the fact that his domain centers around if you're in there, he can just see your soul instantaneously, takes a peek inside Itadori without meaning to. He sees Sukuna, and at this point, Mahito's already been inside Sukuna's soul once. And Sukuna's like, bro, I warned you about stairs. And
it keeps happening.
It keeps happening. And he essentially throws Mahito down a flight of stairs. And by that, I mean, he basically impales him. And Mahito's just like, I'm dying, Squirtle. Oh, God. Oh, fuck.
Which, by the way, this whole time, you know, like, Sukuna's just like, yeah, no, I warned you. And he like hurts Mahito like this. The lighting on Sukuna is fucking gorgeous.
Yes,
like, I'm pretty sure what they did was like they like used like CGI to like generate what the lighting would be, and then use that as a base and animate it on top of it. But like, it looks so good. It's so nice. There was actually a lot of really weird like effect CG they used. Like afterwards, you see Mahito bleeding out, and all the blood that's coming out of him is CG. But like, it doesn't look jarring. It looks, you know, it's like, oh, it kind of just helps to sell the weight. I know Nick got really happy at one part of this where, you know, he's bleeding out, and then some of the blood gets in Mahito's eye, and it just stains his eye.
Yes. And
yes, that was very good.
It's very good, and it's a small detail, but it's a small detail that takes a good amount of time to actually like animate that shit. And then the other thing that really kind of drew me to a lot of these scenes, like here in particular, it felt like there was a lot of rotoscoping scenes with a lot of Mahito's general movement.
Oh,
with his head.
There was a lot of the shadows I noticed on his face. I was like, those are not shadows that you plan. Those are like natural, like mouth, like shadows on the sides of the lips. And it's just like that. That's just not something you get unless you're rotoscoping.
Yeah,
or you're heavily referencing like real life.
Yeah, they either did rotoscoping or they were like going hella with photorealism. But I want to say that was probably rotoscoped for a particular scene. But in general, like these scenes are like some top dollar shit, which makes sense because this was the end of the first core. So at this point, Mahito's like, oh god, I got like a little bit of energy left. I'm gonna fucking die if I don't get the fuck out of here because Sukuna fucked me up. And so
they did a very good sequence here as well, which still felt like it was just like another phase of the fight, you know?
Yeah,
it didn't seem like they had won yet.
Yeah, so like fucking Mahito, after getting jobbed the fuck out, inflates himself to gigantic proportions. And Itadori is like, you're not getting away from me. And he like hits him. He explodes. And then it's like, wait, did I do it? And they're like, nah. And you can see Mahito running away. They're trying their best to chase him down. I think Kento almost gets like this really, really big blow on him. But he manages to rip open a gutter and escape. And at this point, Itadori is bloodlusted. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. And he's running at him, about to follow him down this gutter. And then he passes the fuck out on the ground. Because if you remember from the last couple of episodes, he has probably a double-digit amount of holes in his body that he should not have. And so he's passed out, bleeding on the ground. Kento's fucking panicking. And then
Kento thought that Itadori was fine, you know?
Yeah.
He thought, wow, Itadori's really been handling it. We're kicking so much ass right now. Oh my god, the kid's on the ground. I gotta help this kid.
Yeah, because Itadori was no-selling like a motherfucker.
We can't let this kid die now.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a waste at this point. He's already died once. You can't do it again. It's lame if you die once, you're allowed the one. You know, it's like with Dragon Ball. You're allowed the one. If you do two, it sucks. I hate it. And I believe that's where the episode ended roughly.
So here's the deal. The day ends and like the characters all wake up. And Mahito has his little internal monologue about like how things went, and he's like, "Man, I can't wait to fucking kill Itadori Yuji." Shit. And then like that's when we reach tomorrow. Is when everyone has to wake up that saw what the fuck happened, and they gotta put the pieces together after they absolutely beefed this mission. A kid died for no reason. A lot of people were inflicted with cursed damage that they didn't deserve. Like these special grade curses totally owned these full-grown adults because like a student had to be the only person they could have involved. A student who's faking their death at the moment. Like so this is just a big L for everyone. And Yuji. So first off, like the teacher and the guy that Junpei was bullied by come together, and they're just like, "Wow, we really fucked it up. We really fucked. We gotta be better. We gotta be better people."
Only then does the faculty sit down and say, "Okay, we're gonna hand out a survey for the students to talk about bullying." And at that moment, does anybody actually decide to be like, "Okay, Junpei's dead. Okay, I'm gonna actually come clean. I'm actually going to write down what happened."
Yeah, like you guys didn't kill him, but you were a catalyst to the things that did. Like this needs to be something needs to be done, and then it goes to Itadori. Itadori's pissed, but he's not pissed because like. He's not pissed about like about one thing. He's pissed about a multitude of things. Like his opportunities were burnt to the ground. He was screwed over, and he finally felt the need to kill. And he wants to kill Mahito so fucking bad. And he's just said he's never going to lose again. And that's episode 12 or episode 13. And that's the end of the Mahito arc, and the end of us seeing the cool opening and going on to another cool opening.
I will say one way that episode does end, because I just remembered, was this very somber shot. And it's a shot that I feel reflects the change in direction that we're seeing from the first core into the second core. It has a very somber lighting of what you would expect to see in an early morning with a lot of oranges. And you see Itadori walking toward Gojo and Kento. And they're just basked in this light. They're all together, but they can't really bring themselves to really say anything. And it is this gorgeous work in terms of the draftsmanship, the compositing, just the general lighting and how everything was planned. And it's gorgeous. I love that shot, and it feels like such a good way to end off that first core, that first major arc of Itadori kind of realizing that his worldview, as virtuous as he wanted it to be, how he wanted the world to be the way he wanted it to be, that the world isn't that way. And if he's going to want to make it, to be able to, in his words, die on his own terms, or make it so that people can die in the way that they feel in the way that they feel they deserve to be able to die on their own terms, that he can't be living in this reality, where he can take it easy on people. That when there is evil in the world, he has to be willing to smite it. So it is a very somber and just big change. And like, I feel like it's already starting to be reflected in these newer episodes that we're seeing. Well, newer. These episodes that we're seeing in the second core, as well as the types of animation that we're seeing in the opening, where everything looks heavier, more visceral. But we'll get to the next part of the episode here, and so that way I can kind of go a little more into what I'm talking about.
Right. So, Kai, do you have anything to add?
No, not really.
Okay, so we can move on to the next episode then. Jujutsu Kaisen episode 14. Kyoto Sisters School Goodwill Event. Team Battle Part 0.
Wait, what?
So I guess it's called Part 0 because they probably don't start. They basically don't start until the beginning or until the next episode, which is Kyoto Sisters School Goodwill Event Team Battle Part 1. Why don't we just not end the episode and we just talk about all of this because it's all one piece, you know?
Yeah.
Might be better. So we've got chapters 31 or 32, 33, 34, 35 and 36 worth of content to look at.
Yeah. I think this is an episode where we can kind of just throw both of these together. They're very much like part of the same segment.
Now, this episode the preview for the ending of the last episode was basically a preview for this one, and saying that like everyone's going to basically foreshadowing that everyone's about to finally meet up again since Itadori's supposed death. So this is where things start getting we get a little new. We step away from Dead Boy and we step into people who literally have never met Dead Boy before.
I was about to say, we're stepping away from Dead Boy to come to people that think Boy is dead, but it's a different boy. And he's not dead.
Yeah, it's a different boy, and he's not dead.
It's wild. It's like a completely different world where the boys aren't dead. It's crazy.
Yeah, but they do foreshadow it on it a little. Just to kind of like skip ahead for just a second. Fushiguro does ask Itadori later if he's all right, and Itadori's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And Fushiguro's like, "Something happened to you." So something happened to you. I don't know how he got that sixth sense. I feel like Itadori's been alive after being dead longer than he was a Jujutsu sorcerer before he died. Or so we found out that Jogo was fine. Like he finally grew back his body after getting his ass kicked. And so him and Geto are talking to Mahito, and Mahito's like, "That guy fucked me up. Geto, we're going with your plan. This shit's ridiculous." And then they start making a plan to get better leverage to convince Sukuna to deal with them. Because they need to beat both Goto and Sukuna in some capacity. And now people are kind of scared of Sukuna, which they should be because he's supposed to be the end game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. He's meant to be the big RPG final boss. And so the plan that they start working with is apparently the school has a shit ton of fingers that they have not fed to Itadori yet, because they're like kind of gauging as Sukuna's vessel whether or not he would actually be able to eat all of those fingers and still stay in control. Because we already know he's already had issues staying in control at least once. So it's like, we don't really want to fuck with this too much. So let's not feed this kid fingers. And then you get Gojo, who comes out of nowhere being all like, "Feed the kid all the fingers. I want to see what happens. That shit looks rad. Come on. Feed the fingers to the kid." What could go wrong?
Nobody agrees where Gojo and Kento were talking, and Gojo just kind of asked him about the situation of, everything that happened with the Junpei arc. And he says to Kento, like, "Hey, so what happened about that finger? First off, you didn't tell Itadori about the finger, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I didn't tell him." He's like, "Okay, good," because he would have blamed himself for Junpei's mom dying then. So what did you do with the finger? He's like, "Oh, I give it to the higher ups because I know if I gave it to you, you would have made Itadori eat it.
And Gojo's like, "You right."
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I woulda. But why didn't you? Come on, it would have been fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we can make the kid eat the finger. It's gonna be gross and it'll be really funny, and then he can punch harder. You want him to punch harder, right?
we can take him.
We can avenge that dead kid if he had another finger. Fucking idiot.
We and if he goes berserk, we can take him.
Yeah, exactly. Gojo's
Us
literally.
two.
Gojo
even
by
us
himself
two.
could take him.
Yeah, Gojo
Kento would just be
himself.
there.
So we have so now so this is the part where Itadori jumps in, and then he's like, "Man, I'm so excited for people to know that I'm not dead." And then Gojo is like, "Well, we gotta make it a surprise, right?" And so they set up this big surprise, and he totally has Itadori drinking the Kool-Aid on this surprise, like. And all of a sudden, they go and they try to implement the surprise as everyone's
Can I
meeting
say
up.
one thing real quick here? Because this
Sure.
is something that's destroying me. It's like Itadori is hella drinking the Kool-Aid. Gojo's like, look, everyone's going to be so fucking excited to see that you're alive. First, you're going to have Nobara and Fushiguro. They're going to start crying. Then Panda and everyone else, they're going to start crying because Nobara and Fushiguro are crying. And then finally, they're going to start crying so much because you're back in their lives. One of them's going to start vomiting from being so emotional.
And then
Also-
Nobara just starts vomiting.
There's just like a couple times the bar is just like bleh, bleh.
Yeah. And then Gojo's like, and then also it's gonna solve global warming. And I'm over here just
There's
like,
this animation of an Earth, and then it's got like sunglasses on, and it's just the word cool.
and I'm over here just like, dog, this is the best show ever.
I've always wanted to solve global warming by coming back from the dead.
If that's all we needed to do, I would have done it weeks ago. Fuck, man. But like that gag with the globe being like, oh, we're just gonna solve global warming, and just seeing the Earth with sunglasses that just says cool. Like, I'm very tempted to change that to my Discord avatar. It's so strong. But then they start getting this plan into action. Gojo shows up with a huge cart. There's a bunch of souvenirs for all of the fucking Kyoto kids. And then it's like, oh, so by the way, for all of the Tokyo students, I have a surprise. And everyone's like, you what? And he opens the chest. Itadori pops out of the chest as if it's a nude wedding cake. And he makes this dumb pose and makes this awful fucking pun. And, like, you know, he's trying his best. He's just like, hey guys, I'm alive. And Nobara and Fushiguro are just, like, looking at him with fucking disgust.
They're so mad.
They're
so mad.
They are mauling. They are fucking mauling.
Never seen someone so tilted.
God. Meanwhile, Itadori, because this was the plan that his precious sensei gave him, he's just keeping it up, being like, it's gonna work, right? It's gonna work, right?
And then he looks at them and he goes, and he's like, they don't look surprised at all, and they aren't crying, and they're too distracted with their gifts. This is awful. He just stands there. He just keeps standing there. Like, it'll change eventually. Maybe.
And then finally, after like a hot minute of looking at Fushiguro and Nobara, he's just like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you that I was fucking dead. That I was actually alive. I'm sorry. And and then Nobara and Fushiguro just start cyberbullying him.
Yeah, they do just roast him for ever.
They start just bullying him super hard. But there's another scene, and I might be getting this slightly out of order, so please forgive me. We start going with the other students, and there's some interesting shit here. One of these motherfuckers is a robot. One of these motherfuckers is like a witch. There's the cute-haired, blue-haired girl. Her name was Miwa, and her whole shtick is that she's just goddamn Rurouni Kenshin, where she just has like quick draw sword bullshit, and she's cool as fuck.
She does do the Rurouni Kenshin there, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does the Bato shit, and so they've all met up with the headmaster, and this includes Mai and Toto, as well as this one other guy who's a complete shitheel that I've forgotten his name, and I will not even bother to try to remember it because he's a gigantic shitheel. But essentially, they've met with the headmaster of the school, like the big principal.
The Kyoto school. Yeah. And the Kyoto school guy was there when Itadori revealed himself and was pissed that Itadori was alive, and that Gojo was like, oh yeah, figured we wouldn't trouble you guys with it. And then and the headmaster was like, you son of a fucking bitch. Wow.
And then Gojo looks him dead in the eye. He was like, oh yeah, I didn't want to show you earlier. Didn't want you to die of shock. And I'm over here just like, bro.
He's picking fights he knows he can win.
Yeah. So Headmaster's fucking pissed. Absolutely livid, because he pulled all these strings to make sure that Itadori fucking died, and he's like, no, okay, everyone in the school, you all have my full permission to go after Itadori and fucking kill his ass. And Miwa, the blue-haired girl's like, oh, that's a good idea. And then Mai is just, and then everyone else there, other than Toto, is just like, yeah, sure, I'll kill that kid, why not? And then Toto's like, it's like, he's not against killing him, but he's like, you all don't tell me what to do.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
Cannot,
like, I have to go to a taping at 11 because the idol that I like is live taping a thing, and our thing starts at 12, so I've got an hour. Like, I'm gonna do this. And he just leaves.
He literally just says, fuck this. I am leaving.
He did just go leave to watch TV. And we found out that he went to go watch TV in like Itadori's like basically where he'd been hiding to like hide from being dead for like X amount of time. So at the end episode, and this is just a thing, at the end of the episode after the credits, he's watching the idol show, and Itadori and Gojo just kind of like walk by him, don't even notice he's fucking there. Toto really keeps to himself for being the biggest guy in the show so far.
I mean, he's a champion, though, and oh god, I'm so ready to talk about the best scene in all of media.
Yeah.
We also didn't talk about Gojo's girlfriend.
His
teacher from the Kyoto school, who's like the Gojo of that school, basically.
Oh yeah, those two
definitely.
fucked.
Yeah, those two definitely had some sort of tension.
Yeah, those two definitely fucked, like 100%. No doubt about it.
I believe it.
And like, she just hates Gojo, and then Gojo, you know, he hates like two people. One of them is the headmaster, and one of them is probably himself. But like, essentially, I believe that also goes to the point where, since we're kind of covering both of these episodes together, I remember at this point we can basically transition to the Tokyo team, where they're being a big bully.
Because after that, basically everyone just kind of preps Itadori to be part of their mission. Just to, like, here, we need you to get ready for the plan. Here's us, because you never met the Panda Group, so you need to meet the Panda Group now. And they went through it fairly quickly. They had everyone have what I felt was meaningful conversations that we should watch them have. And then basically everything just gets ready for the mission to begin, which it begins in the next episode.
And then the next episode just happens to be the tuning exams.
Yeah, it's just time for the tuning exams.
It's just Forest of Death.
It's literally the fucking Forest of Death.
Except they're not running in the trees. They're running on the ground, and they're running like normal.
Can someone Can someone give me a rundown of what they're supposed to be doing?
Okay, so the reason why they're in this forest is they have unleashed a big fucking high-class demon in the forest. The goal of both teams is to take down this demon, and the team that does it is the one that's considered the winner. So, because of the fact that they're working on like this kind of cooperative, competitive setting, both of the teams are trying to take down the same target, but the team that actually lands the last blow essentially is the one that's going to get all the credit. So there's a lot of room for infighting between both Kyoto and Tokyo. And that's why you see the Kyoto and Tokyo teams going head to head while also trying to get rid of this gigantic ass fucking demon that has just been thrown in the middle of this goddamn forest.
I see. So that adds tension as well, because what if this demon is stronger than them after they're beaten up?
Exactly.
Which won't be the case, because Toto apparently is just the murder machine of a lifetime.
I'm so fucking excited.
Speaking of Toto, you know what? You know what, Nick? I feel like just blaze through it. Let's talk about it right now. This whole, I'm sure. I don't know about you, but it is 4:38 in the morning. I am starting to fade.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, we've gotten to this point.
Well, we're at the point where a lot of it's just smashing heads.
Yeah.
So,
like,
so this is the point. There's a lot of really good choreography here, but it's all really kind of like deliberately slow until like where because they used Itadori as bait to get Toto away from everyone, because the entire group doesn't want to get steamrolled by Toto because he's a tough son of a bitch. And they'll end up losing a war of attrition if they're just fighting against Toto while the other ones are tracking down the enemy. So Itadori's like, well, I punch and kick, and I can distract him. So he distracts Toto, and everyone looks at them, and they're like, man, we're really glad we didn't send Fushiguro to do that a second fucking time. And Fushiguro's just like, fuck. And then they move on. And eventually, all of the Kyoto group just kind of reaches Itadori and starts beating him up, and he's escaping while also dodging Toto, who has recently realized that Itadori likes the exact same kind of woman, which unfortunately that's Toto's personality trait. That if the type of woman that you like, or the type of other that you like, is just who you are.
Yep.
And so Toto then, after having this conversation with Itadori, which was him just answering the question while he's bleeding out of his face.
All he says is, "I guess I'd like a tall woman with a huge ass." Kind of.
That's what Toto said.
Yeah.
And Toto then proceeds to hallucinate a high school life with Itadori as his best friend, where they had an entire rom-com storyline a la Ko Ichijo in the Persona 4 animation. Going full circle at the very end, with him realizing that he had finally found his very best friend, Yuji Itadori, and that's when the Kyoto students show up. And that's when the Kyoto group shows up, and the Kyoto group starts aiming all their special moves to like insta-kill Itadori or something, and Itadori is very, very talentedly dodging 5 people until Toto is like, skip, and he switched, and all of a sudden Itadori's in a tree, and Toto's where another guy was standing, and another guy is where Toto was standing. And they're like, what the fuck? And Toto's like, I will fucking kill you if you get in my way, which is what I said. And he's like, no, we didn't. What you said is if we tell you what to do, you'll fucking kill us. And he was like, well, now it's this too. And you need to get the fuck out of my way. And they're like, all right, but if you don't kill Itadori, it's on you. And it's like, and he goes, that's up to Itadori. Because even though he is now my best friend, it is okay. I will do it. I will not hold back. And so they start fighting. And as they're fighting, we get a cut off to Gojo, a la the anime thing. We get a cut to Fushiguro fighting against the guy that argued with Toto, being like, "Why do you want to kill Itadori? What's the deal?" And then the girl you like, Nick, immediately was like, I'm really fucking sorry that we gotta kill Itadori. I can't I can't say
control
that I
these
want to do
fucking
it.
savages. And also, we just need to really make sure that we win this and that I get recommended to get a job as fast as possible because I'm poor.
She literally opens up with like she unsheathes her sword and says, "I am poor. I have 2 younger siblings."
She really does do the Uraraka. She's like, yeah, I'm doing this for the money because I love my family. It's not greed. It's I love my family.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, all right, reasonable. I understand. And so like I'm totally reasonable with like 50% of this group in Kyoto that's doing this stuff for this principal who's kind of a dickbag. So that's just, and so at this point we get. It converts from all of these people, most of these people explaining why they don't want, or that why they have to kill Itadori, or not explaining, and that's supposed to be the important thing, is that certain characters don't know why, and certain characters might know kind of why. Fushiguro being one that's like in the dark, and I guess that's because he's supposed to be the best friend unit, and you don't want the best friend unit to know that the higher ups that he's working for are just fucking him. Yet, at least.
Yeah, not just yet.
So after this point, we got an excellent set of choreography between Todo and Itadori. And it ends with Todo describing the fight all the way to the point that he gets hit with the divergent fist. And he's like, fuck, this move sucks. And Itadori's like, huh? And it's like, this thing you're doing, it's wrong. And I think that you're weak unless you take this advice. I'm going to school you while I'm beating your ass. And Itadori's like, well, I can't lose. And he's like, I'm going to fucking fight you and you're going to teach me this shit. And Todo's like, you're my best friend. And then the episode ends.
Yeah.
That is how the episode, it goes, that's the spirit, best friend, and then the episode cuts. It's over.
It's so good. And I wanted to say, because you were talking a little bit on that choreo, the Todo versus Itadori fight is a fight fucking reminiscent of some of the fights in fucking Hajime no Ippo, where every time a punch lands, you can see the air pressure just coming off of like their fists when they're swinging and hitting. And I'm just like, God, the absolute weight that they throw around so fucking casually in this show's animation is fucking insane.
It is scary to look at too in some cases, because you don't know like which one of those blows is going to be the one that transitions this fight for an advantage to one person or another. So there are points where like there's a hit that hit, and I thought that wouldn't affect Todo at all. And then Todo's like, fuck, Itadori just hurt me. Like in his view. And then there's shots when Todo hits Itadori where I think Itadori should die, you know?
Yeah,
and then,
for real.
And he just parries it. And it's just like, all right, they've convinced me that I don't know who's gonna win. And that might be a good thing. Might be. I have to see it more times.
Oh man, this is the best wrestling I've ever seen.
So that was Jujutsu Kaisen, and with that, I think we've been able to get through everything pretty cleanly.
That was everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically everything we would want to talk about. My apologies for having a little bit of a shorter episode. There just wasn't a lot of news that I really wanted to talk about. And we didn't have time to really go over a few of the other things that kind of came out. Hopefully next week we should be able to cover Bubble, as well as maybe also the Guilty Gear story mode.
Guilty Gear, apparently, because we're gonna. It's gonna be okay. So we gotta watch. Wait, hold on a second, Lana. How knowledgeable are you of Guilty Gear's lore?
All right, so Soul Bad Guy is like Ragnar the Blood Edge, except he's like not emo anime boy. He's like a badass kind of like cowboy ass kicker. And there was a point in maybe a timeline where he was part of the order that Kai Kisk works for. But he's been influenced by something involving that man, and this guy, he like really fucked up like all of these people, and now there's a bunch of like infighting, like propagated infighting, and also his wife died at some point, but now she's back. And that's about all I know about Guilty Gear off the top of my head. I swear I've read this stuff somewhere before.
Okay,
and, like
all
I
right.
did know it, but it is all currently eluding me in my haze.
Because
Okay.
I'm wondering if, because I don't think that if you were to go into the Strive story blind, I mean, you could pick up on stuff. But I'm wondering if we,
No, Kai,
With the-
I have an idea. What if next
what?
week we don't watch anime? What if next week?
it's just Guilty Gear?
we
It's
just go
Guilty
through
Gear?
the
We
just go through the entirety of the Guilty Gear
Oh
lore?
my god! On episode 7? On episode 7? You wanted the Guilty Gear special on episode 7?
I will only accept this if we stay up to date with if this skips Jujutsu
I am down for
Yeah.
skipping. I am down for
Yeah.
skipping Jujutsu Kaisen next
That's
week.
fair.
Over the
That's fair.
over the entirety of the Guilty Gear lore.
So we can take a break and leave
mid-arc
someone on a
cliffhanger
mid-arc cliffhanger like we got left on.
We get Lana to watch the Wooly videos that he did. Explain the lore of XX and then we get Lana to watch Strive and then another story.
Oh,
I
this
think
is-
that's the plan, right?
This is gonna be curved.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
All right, let's see how it
All
goes.
right, but I think that's about all the time we have for tonight. But as per usual, for our closing, if you like any of the stuff that we do, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or follow us on whatever
podcast service that you might use
to enjoy
stuff that we put out.
If you wish to follow I can be found at RedMufflerMan on both Twitch and on YouTube. Kai can be found at
I can be found at Kbul on
Kbul
Twitter,
Instagram,
Newgrounds, everywhere. Everywhere.
Itaku,
because that's a new thing people are moving to.
Lana can be found on Technotenor 487 on Twitter, and right now we're just waiting until and then I might have something promotionally within the next month.
Hell yeah! And then obviously, if you want to help support the show, feel free to hit us over on the Patreon, which you can find down in the description. I'm going to try to be putting some stuff on the Patreon to kind of give people a little bit of an insight as to what kind of happens in terms of like behind the scenes stuff. Something I'm going to be working on soon. But I also have a few other things. Not only my channel, but a lot of the Geek Culture Explained stuff as well. There's going to be some fun stuff coming. There's going to be some fun stuff coming down the pipeline that I'm really excited to show everybody. Until then, I am exhausted. It's almost 5 a.m. and I think we all want to pass out into the next world.
Just as a quick reminder, though, even though another reminder, please, if the GoFundMe is still up, please consider supporting Billy Kenneth, helping him with his colon cancer.
I would very much appreciate it.
That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
Any promotion is appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone for your time.
All right, and with that, I will be signing off for the night. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye, guys.